What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about Lions draft scenarios updated now after, well, most of the free agency period. Now, there's definitely other moves that could happen that would change things up. From what we've seen so far, though, the draft for the Detroit Lions, the draft scenarios have definitely changed in a good way, I would say. Well, kind of a good way, kind of not a good way. So let's talk about those. Let's get it started. So let's talk about some of these draft scenarios for the Detroit Lions now that it's updated. So before, we knew it was going to have a free agency, so there was really no way to pinpoint any kind of scenarios because you didn't know what teams still needed. But now, after most of the free agency, we've kind of can understand what other teams are looking for, what they need, and where they may be going. So what the Detroit Lions options may look like when it comes to draft time. Now, there's one really big change, and we'll talk about that. But first, let's just talk about the two obvious ones. That's Chase Young and Isaiah Simmons. Now, Chase Young is obviously one that I would love to have. I think the Lions' biggest need heading into the draft now is pass rushers. We've gotten a lot of other things. I think guard could still use an upgrade. I think cornerback could use some depth. But I think pass rusher is the biggest need by far. Lions didn't get a lot of pressure last season. They added Jimmy Collins, which is solid, but they need someone else that can get pressure because they also lost Devon Kennard. They got to get to the backfield, and adding a pass rusher is number one on my list. And with that being said, a guy like Chase Young is a great option. Probably the best pass rusher coming into the draft. Some people say he's the most talented player in this draft in Chase Young, and I think he would definitely make a lot of sense for the Lions if he fell to number 3. Now, how in the world would he fall to 3? Well, one, we're not going to trade up for him. But two, how would he fall to 3? Well, there's really only a few scenarios, right? The only scenarios is that the Redskins pass on him, right? Because the Redskins sit at number 2. The Bengals were assuming are going to take Joe Burrow. If they take Young, then obviously it's already out of the equation. I don't think they'll do that. They already got DJ Reader, so I don't think they would go with Young as well. But I do think it's all on the Redskins, right? It's all on the Redskins in deciding what they want to do. So the Redskins can either sit at number 2 and take Chase Young. They could trade back. They did get Montez Sweat last season. If they trade back, obviously someone would trade up probably for a quarterback. So that team that traded up for the quarterback would select the quarterback there, or they would take the quarterback. Now, there is still that option that they could potentially take a quarterback at number 2. I think that's an option that's not talked about enough, but I think it's a real possibility. We've seen teams stack quarterbacks for a lot of competition. If there's someone that they really, really do like, which there's been so many smoke screens like, oh, we do like him. No, we don't like him. We love Haskins. We hate Haskins. I have no idea what's going on. But at the end of it all, when the draft comes, if they find someone that they absolutely love, whether it's Tua, whether it's Herbert, I don't know, probably one of those two, then they want to take him at number 2. Obviously, that means Chase Young would fall to 3. Now, the Lions could trade back out of that spot, but I don't think that's any kind of scenario that would make any sense. If Chase Young's sitting there at 3, you take him. There's no questions asked. You take him. You don't move around that pick. You don't consider, unless you're getting 8 first-round picks, you're taking Chase Young. You need a pass rusher, and I think Chase Young is a must for the Detroit Lions if he's sitting there. Now, some people say, well, how would he fit in our scheme? He would fit in our scheme just fine, all right? We use multiple different defensive packages. We would find a way to fit him in packages. We'd find a way to fit him into the defense, and trust me, we need a pass rusher, and a guy like Chase Young would be very, very helpful. So, no to trading up, but yes, if he is at 3, you got to take him. Now, Isaiah Simmons is the other scenario. Now, Isaiah Simmons, I think it's become even harder for us to possibly get him. And what do I mean by that? Well, I still do believe he falls to at least to 3. I don't think he goes 1 or 2. I think that'd be crazy. Hey, no one's really talked about that, though. The Redskins potentially taking Isaiah Simmons. Don't see it happening. So the most likely he's going to fall to 3, and he's going to be an option. The question is, should we take him at 3? Well, if you want him, yes. Because if you don't want him, or if you kind of want him and you're like, oh, yeah, I like him, but let's trade back and try to get something else and still get him. That ain't going to happen. I think that's pretty much off of the table. You're really risking it if you pass on him and you still want him, because Isaiah Simmons at number 3, there's a very good chance he goes number 4. Now with the Giants signing James Bradberry, which will take me into my next scenario. James Bradberry, the cornerback from Carolina, a big deal, a young cornerback, going to lock him up for a while, definitely a number 1 cornerback. That means they're pretty much all but out of the conversation for Jeffrey Okudah. It's like, why would we even go after Jeff Okudah now? Why not go after a playmaker like Isaiah Simmons, which they need? So it's either going to be for them Isaiah Simmons or an offensive lineman. Now again, they could trade back and look for a lineman, but it's probably going to be one of those two, Isaiah Simmons or lineman like a Tristan Wirfs. So in that case, the Detroit Lions, if they want Isaiah Simmons, you pretty much got to take him at 3. I don't think you can risk that. Unless you're willing to risk it and go after someone else, if you really want Isaiah Simmons, don't take the chance of trading back, because there's a very good chance, I think there's a very good chance the Giants take him at number 4 if he is sitting there. Now, the final scenario, which is very, very helpful now if you're a Jeffrey Okudah fan, because if you want Jeffrey Okudah, I think the Lions are in a great position to get him after this free agency. Going back to the James Bradberry point, it opens up Jeffrey Okudah possibilities all over. Jeffrey Okuda looked like there was a chance that he could go with the Giants, right? If we passed on him, the Giants might take him, so dang, we can't really trade back. We might have to take him at 3. However, now in this scenario, that's not the case. The Lions can still trade back with the team like the Dolphins or the Chargers. Chargers say they're going to rock with Tyrod Taylor. I don't believe it. Dolphins still need a quarterback. So trading back with one of those teams, you could still land Jeffrey Okuda. I'm pretty much like 95% sure that the Giants wouldn't take Okuda and sign James Bradberry. It doesn't make sense. They're probably going to take Simmons or an offensive lineman. So Jeffrey Okuda is going to fall past them because they already have James Bradberry. So because of the Giants making that signing this offseason actually help the Lions out if they're targeting Jeffrey Okuda. If all along they're like, we want Okuda, now they can look at it and say, we can trade back. And think about this. Worst case scenario, if you trade back and Okuda gets selected at 4 by the Giants, that means Isaiah Simmons fell down and you take Isaiah Simmons. Lions are in a really good position at 3. We've talked about it before. And I think after free agency, the Lions are in an even better position, especially if you want Jeffrey Okuda. So I just want to talk about that a little bit. We will be taking tons of draft videos. I just want a little like sneak peek just to talk a little bit about a couple of that big free agency move that the Giants made that made it a different situation for the Detroit Lions when it comes to the first pick in the draft for them. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Well, we'll be back with some other draft videos for sure. Thank you, Pride, for watching, and I'm out.